Okay, so I'm here to explain what happens when Saturn goes into the sixth house in our birth chart. So let me start by explaining what is the sixth house. The sixth house is a house that represents some pets. So yeah, small pets, small animals. It can represent debts, things that we like owe people. It can represent diseases. It can represent our health. And this is sort of like a house that represents things that we like give our energy to. Or a better example and analogy is it's a house that represents the daily things that we deal with on a routine basis. This is like a house that like signifies you know, the things you got to deal with on a day-to-day basis in the everyday working world. It's like moving out your parents' house and you having to handle and deal with all the bills and responsibilities that they used to have and handle. Now you got to deal with them. Now you got to deal with a leaking roof and a mortgage, and you got to be responsible for, you know, figuring out what to do if you get a flat tire and all that stuff. It's just all those daily things that we got to worry about. This is why Virgo and Mercury rule this house, because this house shows you why the sign of Virgo is very critical and nitpicky and all that, because this is a house where your mind has to be sharp and you have to just be on point for all the little things that can go wrong on a regular day-to-day basis. That's another reason why Mercury rules this house, because Mercury represents intelligence, but like our calculative 1 + 1 2 + 2 type of intelligence. It takes a sharp, analytical, practical, calculative mind to be able to handle and deal with the things that we face on a regular day-to-day basis in this adult, materialistic, urban world and society and stuff. So that's a little bonus information for why Virgo is the way that it is. But Saturn, what is Saturn? Saturn represents boundaries. It represents one of the planets that represents our father. Sun and Saturn can represent like the relationship we have with our dad. Saturn represents the bones, skeletal system. It represents death and debts. And Saturn likes to do things. It likes routine. It likes organizing, putting structure into the house and sign that it goes into. So Saturn does really good when it comes into this house. It does. This is a great placement in my opinion for Saturn to be. One of the things that you can see with Saturn being here is that, well, one of the things that can happen is that a person, they can tend to have chronic illnesses. You know, you could be battling an illness potentially for a long period of time, but you know, after a while, all the planets in our birth chart, they mature after a while. Their effects or negative effects, they sort of lessen over time. And in Saturn's case, I believe it matures like somewhere around like maybe 35 or 36. But usually a person has their Saturn return by like 27, 28. That's when Saturn goes right back into the sign that it was in when you was born. Usually when a person experiences their Saturn return, whatever lessons or karma and debts or struggles that person might have been facing in the area of the house that the Saturn was in, they sort of become lessened in a sense, or they know how to deal with those things better. So an individual here, you can see that if they was dealing with some maybe eczema real bad, maybe later on in life, late 20s or whatever, the eczema, it's not as bad, it's not as harsh, it loosens up. Or you can see people with displacement, they can be battling and dealing with a lot of debt. You know, they have a lot of collections. A lot of people, you know, they owe people money. They got a lot of collections after them. Or they could just be, yeah, they can have a lot of collections or whatever, collection agencies after them. And these people, it's like maybe after a long period of just avoiding paying companies that you owe money, they just forgive you, or they just stop pursuing you, or your debt just suddenly just magically just vanishes out of nowhere. This placement could be like people who these could be people who could just be like tax evasion type stuff, you know. These people, they could owe the government money, or they could be falsifying and just falsely using like you know, unemployment checks, and they have a job, and these people, they might get away with it or stuff, because, you know, I told you that this is a house that represents debts, and Saturn represents debts and karma, and it can represent authority figures. But you see what Saturn do, it's a planet that sort of drags things out, because it's a very slow moving planet. So things happen for long periods of time when Saturn comes into like a house. Things, good and bad, can be dragged out over a long period of time. And in this case, things can be dragged out for so long in this sixth house of, you know, everyday conflicts and enemies and problems, that they can get stretched out for so long that things just get dismissed. Like, you know, you can have a long court case and a long court battle with somebody, and the judge just gets fed up and be like, look, here's the verdict, it's in your favor, let's end it. Or, you know, like I said, people be chasing after you that owe you money, like companies or whatever, and then they just suddenly just make it vanish. They just let go. You be dealing and battling with some health illness, some chronic health illness, and either it just lightens up after maybe 28 plus years, or it just suddenly vanishes. Like I said, these people, they could, you know, they could fucking take money from the government, like I said, and maybe get away with it some way, somehow. They can get away with their little scheme, their little scam, for a long period of time. What else can you see with the Saturn in the sixth house? These people, because I said Saturn likes to put order and structure into the house and sign that it goes into. These people do well in dealing with the everyday struggles and problems of the everyday world, because you see, Saturn is like a working planet. It's a very it's a very, you know, materialistic planet. Not materialistic as in like it likes the finer things, but it deals with and is good with working with like working class people, lower level people. It's sort of like a planet that likes dealing with, you know, the working class type people and stuff. So here, Saturn does fine. Saturn will be able to handle the stresses and trials and tribulations of the things that it deals with on an everyday basis. It'll be like, okay, I know that I have to deal with this bill. I'll be ready for it. Or I know how to deal with this. I know how to deal with that. They'll just be ready and prepared for those everyday issues that they can encounter. And on the flip side, on a possible negative side, you know, Saturn can just bring also burden and responsibility into whatever house and sign that it goes into. So it's very possible also at early ages, until these people sort of mature or whatever, that these people can feel very burdened in the areas in regards to their sixth house. They can feel really burdened when it comes to handling the bills and providing for themselves and being on their own and keeping up their health. That can feel very rigorous and exhausting and draining too. But over time, because Saturn is like a planet that shows good results and, you know, effects over time. It feels like a lot at first, but as you get older and deal with that area in relation to where Saturn is, you'll get better over time with it. Another thing you can see with this house, with this placement, since the sixth house represents like our health and all that, and Saturn is like routine and order and structure, these people can have a strict health routine, a strict health regimen. These people can work out a lot. You know, they be like, okay, I'm gonna get up in the morning, I'm gonna go to the gym, do my push-ups, take my vitamins every day, you know, eat the right diet. They can have a very strict routine diet and regimen. They can just be very on top of their diet with this Saturn being in the sixth house. And that's just about it, what happens when Saturn comes into the sixth house. This isn't really a bad placement. You know, the sixth house can represent like your enemies, because if you owe people money, that's sort of like, you know, I don't know, that's sort of a classical term, but the problems that we got to face and deal with every day is sort of in a sense our enemy, the things we got to battle. And Saturn, it does real good here because it likes working, and it's sort of, you know, Saturn has all those negative stereotypes to it. You know, it represents death and maybe karma, and it holds you back. It puts boundaries and restrictions on you. Well, in certain houses and in certain signs, it not only puts the well, mainly certain houses, it doesn't only like put those malefic characteristics and traits on you, but it can put it on maybe the people that you affect, the people that you're around. You know, so overall, this is a good placement for Saturn, and that's just about it, what I have to say in regards to what happens when Saturn goes to the sixth house. Thanks for watching.